Hey everyone, Zach here. So imagine this for just a second. You win enough money that you literally never have to work again, right? Every single financial stress you've ever carried is just gone, instantly. Sounds absolutely perfect. But now I want you to imagine taking all that money, losing every single penny of it, and ending up buried in debt just 3 years later. I know, it sounds impossible, but as we unpack the source material in today's Zak Wealth Files explainer, you're going to see why this exact nightmare scenario is actually incredibly common.
70%. That is the shocking historical reality of how many lottery winners actually end up going broke. And here's the thing you really need to understand. It's not because they're inherently careless or foolish people. Not at all. It's because they fall into a very specific, invisible psychological trap. So today, my mission is to make this simple and accurate for you. We're going to break down the exact behavioral finance framework you need to understand so that by the end of this explainer, you will know exactly how to protect your own money from this exact same trap. You know, when we hear about someone blowing millions of dollars, it is so easy to just sit back and judge, right? We all think, well, I would never do that. But the financial data and behavioral researchers tell a totally different story. These winners are actually falling victim to a highly documented behavioral finance pattern, and financial planners see this exact same rapid wealth drain in everyday people too. It's been studied for decades. This doesn't just happen with hundreds of millions of dollars. It applies to inheritances, a big bonus at work, or even those sudden crypto spikes. The data clearly shows that recipients frequently return right back to their exact prior financial baseline. Sometimes they even end up worse off within just a few short years.
If this rapid wealth drain happens to so many different people across so many decades, well, there has to be a root cause, and it comes down to a specific behavioral economics concept called the endowment effect. Basically, this means that as humans, our brains literally categorize money completely differently depending on exactly how we got it. We place a much higher value on the things we sweat for, the things we bleed and work for, compared to things that just drop right onto our doorstep without any effort at all.
Let's contrast these two mindsets. On one hand, you have earned money. This represents years of your saving, your sacrifice. Because of that, your brain mentally protects it as real, hard-earned wealth. But on the other hand, you have windfall money. Your brain instantly labels this as found money or play money, and because it completely lacks the mental friction of hard work, it gets spent, lent out, or gambled away far more loosely.
Beyond the endowment effect, financial planners who deal with sudden wealth use this brilliant analogy to explain what happens to your lifestyle. They call it your internal financial thermostat. See, we all have this ingrained internal baseline for what normal spending, normal housing, and just a normal lifestyle feels like to us.
But here is the danger. Your internal baseline doesn't automatically update just because your bank balance suddenly spiked. If you don't deliberately recalibrate that thermostat, what happens? Well, your lifestyle just aggressively scales up your old comfortable habits until the money rapidly drains right back down to that temperature you're used to. It's a completely subconscious drift, and it happens incredibly fast.
Then we have the third psychological trap, which is the social pressure cooker. Honestly, this is one of the most documented causes of sudden wealth loss out there. There is an immense, heavy emotional cost to saying no to the people you love. Winners describe this intense pressure from friends and family asking for gifts, informal loans, or throwing out unvetted business pitches. It is genuinely difficult to navigate, and a massive portion of wealth is lost right here to these informal, pressure-filled financial favors.
To really understand how these forces play out, let's ground these behavioral theories in reality. This is a very famous, extensively reported timeline of an early 2000s lottery winner. Step 1 was a massive US lottery win of several $100 million. But Step 2, because there were no systems in place, social pressure completely took over. This led to heavy lawsuits, family struggles, and intense disputes. And then Step 3, it ended in severe financial struggles. This person actually ended up in a far worse situation than before the win. Now, just to be totally clear, this explainer is strictly for general education. We are not here to judge this person's private life. We're looking at this because it's a classic behavioral finance example of exactly what happens when you don't have a protective system in place. But I really want to bring this narrative directly back to your reality. What actually happens when you get a sudden $5,000 bonus at work? Or maybe a modest crypto spike? The exact same psychological traps apply. The money arrives way faster than your internal thermostat can adjust, you treat it loosely as play money, and it just disappears before you even notice it. This channel is all about practical strategies, so I'm going to give you the exact step-by-step framework you can use this week to manage any sudden cash infusion, whether it's big or small. Here are the 5 universally recommended steps from sudden wealth specialists. Think of this as your ultimate protective barrier. Step 1, wait to act.
2. Build a team. 3. Set social policies. 4. Anchor your lifestyle. And 5. Treat it as principal. Let's break these down so you know exactly what to do.
For steps 1 and 2, the rule is incredibly simple. Let the initial emotions settle. Do absolutely nothing immediately. Pausing prevents you from making irreversible, highly emotional decisions. Then, before you move a single dollar, build a team. You want to hire a financial advisor, a tax professional, and an attorney. Why? Because it creates mandatory outside accountability when your own judgment might be clouded by the sheer emotional intensity of getting that windfall.
Moving to steps 3 and 4, you must pre-decide firm rules for family requests. Decide calmly, right now, what your gifting policy is going to be. Having a fixed rule removes that real-time social pressure of having to say no on the spot. And step 4, deliberately maintain your familiar spending routines. You want to freeze your current lifestyle baseline for a set period of time so you don't fall victim to that rapid, invisible lifestyle inflation we talked about. Finally, step 5. This is a crucial mindset shift. You have to treat the lump sum as principal to be preserved and grown. Do not treat it as a very large paycheck that's just meant to be spent down. Reframing this windfall as a long-term asset that needs to be protected, that is the single biggest difference between those who stay rich and those who go broke. It is literally the core of long-term wealth building.
Now, before we wrap up, I do need to give a quick but non-negotiable disclaimer. This explainer is strictly for general education based on publicly reported cases and behavioral finance research. It is not personalized financial, legal, or psychological advice. If you ever experience a windfall yourself, you absolutely must seek out qualified, licensed professionals to guide your specific situation.
So, let's summarize our core takeaways here. Going broke after a windfall is not a story of bad luck, and it's not a story of foolishness. It is a deeply human psychological pattern. You have to beware of the endowment effect and that play money illusion. And most importantly, you have to outsmart your own psychology by preparing your structured frameworks long before the money ever arrives.
I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative question. If you won a huge lottery jackpot tomorrow, what is the very first thing you would actually do? Let me know your honest answer down in the comments. And if this explainer brought you some clarity and changed how you view sudden wealth, make sure you hit subscribe to Zak Wealth Files. We are all about honest, psychology-first financial frameworks here, and I cannot wait to share more with you. See you next time.